Hi friends, let me ask you a quick question. How many shark bites do you think there are in the United States in a given year? Think about it for a second. 16. And we all remember the movie Jaws, which made famous shark attacks, particularly on the beach, to vulnerable swimmers. Yet the reality is, on average, 16 beachgoers are bitten every year in this country, and there's 2 deaths every other year. It's not really that impactful statistically when you look at a population of 335 million. Let me ask you another question. How many people do you think die in a given year from heart disease? Almost 650,000. Yet, people aren't walking around fearful of heart disease in large part. My point in saying all of that is the narrative of fear doesn't match the actual facts of the virus. Now, as we've said before, we are not epidemiologists, we are not medical professionals. We talk to those folks as well as economists, and we look at data and stats and numbers. That's what we do, and it drives investment decision making for our clients. So here's what the numbers are telling us. As an example, do you know that less than 30 children under age 15 have died from the virus? Yet 190 die every year from the flu. 436 take their own lives. 672 die by homicide, and almost 4,200 die by unintentional deaths like drowning. We live in a polarized and politicized media environment, and it makes it very difficult to understand what the reality is. So I've had many conversations with families across the country, and the question comes back to, more often than not, how can the markets be doing this when it feels like that? And the truth is that the markets are made up of publicly traded companies. Publicly traded companies like Apple, who closed hundreds of stores nationwide and shut down operations significantly globally, and they were up 4% for the second quarter. Or a company like Goldman Sachs, who makes its money on mergers and acquisition, lending, and free cash flow. They made money in the second quarter. Because what has happened is the government effectively forced consolidations. They told the local hardware store owner, you have to shut your doors, and they told Home Depot, you can stay open. There are a lot of injustices in that scenario, but the reality is that the local hardware store doesn't trade on the public markets, but Home Depot does. And so the publicly traded markets know that the data suggests that there is a lot to be optimistic about, that while there is a battle right now in Washington and in local municipalities on how to handle the specific elements of regional and local virus outbreaks, that we are on the other side and trending towards the ability to move on and normalize. Whether you vote on the left, on the right, right down the middle, or not at all, the facts suggest that there is a lot to be optimistic about in the economy, that companies are doing what it takes to restructure. We've seen Brooks Brothers, a 200-plus-year-old historic U.S. company, file bankruptcy, but Chapter 11, not Chapter 7. They're simply saying, with the shutdown and the decreased store traffic, we need to reorganize our debt. They're not going anywhere. Companies like J.Crew and others have restructured through the legal channels of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And while there are certainly companies like airlines and hotel industries that will continue to feel the effects of this for years to come, there's a large swath of the economy and the companies that make up the publicly traded markets that are doing well or that are poised to do well in the immediate future, which is why we believe, regardless of what information or narrative comes out, that there's going to be a continued recovery in the third and fourth quarters. And as we've been saying, 12 to 18 months from now, we believe the markets will be at or above their all-time highs. Stay invested, understand the risk-reward spectrum and make sure that your family sees your time horizon and adjusts accordingly. Thanks for watching.